Okay, so today we're going to be talking about interviewing. So hopefully you all are ready for that, just especially to get ready for the interview day next week or your mock interview with your career advisor or success coach if you haven't done it. And no worries, Krista. We want to make sure that everyone is able to do what they need to do. So that's why Tabitha's eating. You know, if you all need to eat, like take care of yourself, like please feel free to do that during PD. So, okay. So program reminders and updates. So this is less relevant for you all because you are literally here on this meeting right now, but we just wanted to remind everyone that this program really attendance is important. You know, you really get out of the program what you put in. And so putting in the time to show up, you know, putting stuff in the chat, like that's really what makes the program great. So it's all the contributions from you all, and you can't contribute if you're not here. So just make sure you're showing up, especially if you want to get that $50 gift card for completing the virtual sessions. So then next, you all should have been emailed a unique link to a form called the Mentee intake form. And so basically we're using it to collect a lot of information from you about what you're looking for in a mentor. So we're going to be matching you all up with mentors in a couple of weeks. And the more information you give us, the better chance that you'll have a match that works well for you. So make sure you do that by May 15th. So that's next Sunday. So you got some time, but just make sure you do it. So next we have attend internship interview day on Tuesday, May 10th from 5:30 to 7:30, or sign up for a mock interview with your career advisor or success coach. You can check out the recap email with all of their office hours, or you can email Ben in Dallas. I'm pretty sure they have a doodle going. So if you need that link, just let us know. And so next is the interview process. So for those of you who are participating in internship interview day, you're going to receive your schedule tomorrow. So if you don't get it by the end of the day, please reach out to us. We've finalized the interview schedule and things like that. So we're pretty excited. We did our best to match everyone with their preferences and things like that. There were some tricky things because some folks signed up for things that you had to be 18 for, and you might not be 18. So unfortunately, we couldn't schedule you with them. But we did try and make sure that we, aligned your interests with industry or different job tasks and things like that. So you might also have been scheduled for a company that maybe you didn't put on your preference form. But again, all the employers are really excited to work with you all and provide that really valuable experience. So if you have any questions, just let me and Kathleen know. But again, you should get that email sometime tomorrow. Lastly, I think there's just a few folks who have not showed us a COVID vaccination card. So if you have one, just be sure to send it to us, and we will delete it afterwards. We won't be storing that info. And then lastly, so as we were talking about with Sabrina earlier, if you're still having difficulties with Canvas, just make sure that you sign up for office hours with your career advisor or success coach. We'll make sure that all the technical difficulties are taken care of. Does anyone have any questions? I know that was a lot.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Cameron.
I feel like I missed it. Were we supposed to fill out a form to tell what times we're available for interviews, or?
No, so the event is on Tuesday, May 10th from 5:30 to 7:30. So we scheduled all of those times within the 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So yeah, of course. Yeah. Just make sure that you come to that event. And if you haven't already, make sure that you submit your executive summary or resume so we can pass it on to employers.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Alexandria, I believe we already have yours. So you are actually good to go. Any other questions? Just to make sure it's clear for you all, the interview day is taking place virtually on GatherTown. So if you have any questions about that, please email us tomorrow or Monday and we will walk you through it. Make sure that you feel okay about it. Kathleen will also be doing a demonstration at the end of this session. So if you're like at all nervous though, like we can definitely spend some extra time. So any other questions?
Hi.
I have a question.
We have all the questions. Okay, let's go with Quace and then Hallie.
So I see there's an assignment on Canvas that says mock interview. Will that count if you do the actual internship process, this internship interview day?
Yes, exactly. So if you're doing internship interview day, you do not need to do a mock interview unless you want the practice.
Okay. Thank
Great
you.
question. Yes. Okay, Hallie, what is your question?
It's pronounced Haley.
Oh, dang it. I was right the first time. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Did you already send the link for the Mentee intake form?
Yes. So if you haven't gotten it, just send us a quick email and then we'll resend it to you.
I'll look again.
One other important thing with that is that if you open the form and it's not your name at the top, email us and let us know because it means you have someone else's link. Is it Anjali? Will we have a schedule of interviews to complete during interview day? Yes. Yeah, exactly. So Kathleen just responded in the chat, but yes, you will get your schedule. So like I said, all of the slots have been distributed. And so each interview will be about 10 minutes, and then you'll have about 5 minutes in between interviews. So some people have 2 interviews, some people have 6 interviews. So it really just depended on interests, age, like I mentioned, and some other factors. So we tried to prioritize folks who had been in the program before for more interviews, but everyone does have at least a couple. So definitely recommend kind of looking into, you know, for the folks that, for the employers that you're interviewing with, make sure that you do your research, look at their websites, things like that. Julia, you're good. Yeah, everyone has at least one. I think everyone has at least 2. But Kathleen, let me know if I'm wrong. Any other questions? These are all really good questions. All right, I think we can move on, but you all can feel free to put anything in the chat as we go on. So we can go to the next slide, Kirsten.
Okay, interviewing best practices.
Okay, so this is a lot of words here, but too long didn't read. We just want to help you all be successful at interviewing. So can we do another unofficial poll? So who in the call has been on a interview before? Just like throw up a reaction or like a thumbs up or a hand. Okay, yep, looks like seeing a lot of folks. Okay. Everyone who's been in the program should definitely be putting up a thumbs up. Okay, so Ariana said not me. That's totally fine, and that's why we're all here. Krista has, oh, Krista, so Jordan has been processing the gift cards for doing the pre-surveys. So we will be sure to let you all know when those go out. One thing that you should be very sure to know about these is that they arrive in a very plain white envelope and they look like spam mail. So just make sure that your parent knows that it's coming, make sure that you're aware that it's coming, and don't throw it away because we can't replace it. So let us know if you have any other questions, Krista. But yeah, okay. So it looks like we definitely have some seasoned I guess we're technically interviewees if we're the ones doing the interviews. But so we'll definitely have some review, but also hopefully have some opportunities to kind of hone our crafts. I know all of the career advisors and success coaches have some really good tips. So, but also if you all have any that you want to share with the group, please feel free, especially for folks who may not have interviewed before. You can go to the next slide, Kirsten. Oh, sorry, I got too excited. We can go to the next one.
Okay. Developing and analyzing interview strategies. I also was excited and thought that other slide was mine, but here we go. So here are just some tips, tricks, and reminders that'll help you along as you interview. So first, be positive. Remember to stay positive. You'll be a more attractive candidate and coworker. So just remember to show them that you're interested and you want to be there. You can do that through body language, the way you're speaking to them, through different things. And then set goals. Prior to interviewing, take time to write where you want to be in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years, so you can have them in mind and reference them as you're answering questions and, you know, relate them back to yourself and your future goals. And then sell what you can do. Know what benefits and skills you bring to the table. And so this is a time to really highlight, all the experience you have and just the cool things that you've been learning, and the skills that you've built. And so they want to hear about that. So make sure that you tell them. And then lastly, ask the right questions. And then that brings us to our STAR technique, which is a technique that will help you answer a question in an interview. And so before we actually get to the S, the first step you want to take is to prepare, listen to the question, and think of an event that will answer the question, describe an event that happened to you. And so it's totally okay to take time if you need to think, and we'll kind of go through some of those practices later. And so the S in STAR stands for situation. Describe the event or situation you were in when you did a job or were faced with a challenge. And then T is for task. Explain what you needed to do or accomplish and what your role was in getting that done. A is for action. Describe the specific actions you took to complete the task. Focus on what you did and any challenges you overcame in that situation. And then R is for result. Explain what happened as a result of your actions. You want to emphasize what you accomplished or learned at the end of that situation. So an example of this would be if I was asked in an interview to share about a problem or conflict I had recently handled. To start with C and kind of tie T in there, I could say that I was working with a team of 4 on a project at school in my history class. We were supposed to write a report about birds, but one of my teammates wasn't really doing their work, and I was worried about getting a bad grade. And so then to move on to action, to explain what I actually did during that time, I could say first, I tried talking to my classmate about how I was feeling frustrated about him not doing his work, but he continued to just goof off and get nothing done. And even though I didn't want to do extra work myself, it was important to me to make sure the project was finished. So I worked with my other 2 teammates to distribute tasks fairly. And then lastly are the result. I would say in the end, my other teammate didn't do his share of work, but our report still got done. I learned it was important to do my best to collaborate, but ultimately make sure that the job just got done.
All right, preparing and practicing. All right, folks. So I didn't see too much of it today, but I kind of know how people think. Sometimes, some people. But a lot of folks, when it comes to interviewing or answering the simple question, so tell me a little bit about yourself. We get cold feet, right? We can tell ourselves we like all of this stuff, music, movies, sports, etc. But when we're sitting down in a more professional setting and you're to tell somebody who you don't know about yourself, we kind of shrink figuratively, right? So this slide is all about knowing stuff. And I'm going to define stuff, but I'm pretty sure you can pretty much understand what I'm saying. First and foremost, know yourself, right? Resume information, strengths, weaknesses, or growth areas, goals, etc. So I can tell you all that as far as my working history or my education or some skills that I may have, nobody knows those but me. Now, there are times where I'm really open and I'm just telling people, hey, I worked here, or I did that, or I have a credential here, or so on and so forth. But then there's other times where I don't really feel like, we'll say, speaking on those things. But I have to put myself in the right mindset. Soft skills, professional development, all of those things is about knowing yourself and knowing how to get yourself in the game. Now, you don't have to memorize your resume. You can have it there in front of you, right? May it be a virtual interview, may it be an in-person interview, just so you can kind of, take a little glance and refresh yourself as to what's on there. And oh yeah, last year I worked here and I did this extracurricular activity and so on and so forth. But no one knows you better than you, right? And I mean that sincerely, not in a sarcastic way, because sometimes we feel like our parents or boyfriend, girlfriends, whomever might know us better than we know ourselves, but in a serious sense. I know where I'm strong when it comes to working in the office or on projects or in class. And I know other areas that I might not be so strong in, and I'm not the type of guy to be shy about admitting that or asking for help. And I hope you all, know that asking for help is not a weakness. That is not a growth area. As a matter of fact, it takes a very strong person to admit, hey, I don't know this, or I'm not so great at this, and I want to get better. Can somebody help me? Or these are the areas that, look at that. I like that. Channel your inner Dallas. But yeah, speak on these things, because we don't know if you don't know. And if you really want this position, as a matter of fact, let me take one quick sidestep. My friend came over yesterday, one of my homeboys, and we didn't necessarily have the best of conversations last week. So we met yesterday to kind of hash things out and to come to an understanding. It's just a lot of time had gone by. And so one of the things we spoke on, he actually sent it to me in a text message yesterday, and it kind of makes a whole lot of sense right now. So what was said is, and it pertains to knowing yourself and being able to admit these things, sacrifice for what you want, or what you want will be sacrificed. And if you really listen to what I say and think about that, you got to know yourself in order to do those things. If you want to reach that goal, if you want to hit that mark, you want that job, so on and so forth, you got to work for it. You got to work for it. The word we used, of course, is sacrifice. Whichever. I'm gonna stop rambling on that one. So, hey, nice, Haley. So in addition to knowing yourself, you got to know the company. You got to know the people that you're sitting in front of. I'm not necessarily saying you got to know Jack, Amanda, and Sarah who's sitting in front of you, and those are the ones who are going to do the interviews. But before you get there, do a little Google search, or if you're a really special individual, check out some press releases. Look up their stock, what's their stock doing, really dig and do some special searching. Because if you ask these questions, if you bring up these topics, not only does it show that you know the company, but they're going to remember you. Because if you catch me off guard in a situation like that, I'm going to go back and tell somebody else, like, you know what? There was a real sharp young person who started talking about, how the company is doing as far as, its value, or, the product, this new tech that we got coming out. They knew all about it. It seems like they really care about this organization, right? That stands out to folks. It lets them know that you're not only trying to get a check, because let's face it, everybody knows we're here for money. But if you're having a genuine interest in something, if you are really passionate about something, it's going to show for sure, for sure. Let's see. This can also shape your questions that you ask during your interview, and that's a biggie. So if you're struggling for questions to ask, jump on Google. And I don't necessarily mean Google interview questions. Look up Pepsi Cola, look up the sheriff's department, look up that marketing company, see what they're about, check their social media as it says on there, and ask some good questions. I know you all are really sharp. You can form up some great things. I already know that. So, wow them, show them. Next slide, please. Okay, so interview tips, right? This is kind of not the whole gambit, right? But a good part of it. So in addition to, yeah, that's on there. So in addition to knowing yourself, knowing the company, you gotta look nice, right? You gotta dress the part. We're not necessarily gonna go in t-shirts and hoop shorts, or we're not necessarily gonna go into, I don't know, a spacesuit, right? It just doesn't even make sense at that point. I don't know why I thought of that, but dress the part. So just kind of as a, I guess, a word to the wise, if anybody is having any issues with this first bullet point here, please reach out to us. Let us know. Let us help you. That's what we're here for. We'll go to, I don't know, Meijer, Walmart, JCPenney, somewhere. We'll get it done. We've done it before.
What do you
Please just let us know.
recommend that we would wear?
I'll get to that in just a second. Kathleen has some great suggestions for you. Body language is key, right? So I'm matching my emotions to my message, 2 M's. I like that. I'm not facing, you guys aren't looking at my back right now. I'm not fiddling anymore. I'm speaking to you. I'm kind of moving my head or my shoulders and my hands. So I look really engaged, right? I look like I believe what I'm saying. I do, but it looks like I believe what I'm saying. Think positive thoughts, because whether you all know it or not, whether you believe it or not, negativity just weighs on you. I'm sure we all have those stressful moments. We all have those anxious moments. We all have those negative thoughts. We can't do something, or we're not able to do something. And if we say it, then we start to believe it, right? Or if we think it, we then start to believe it. Like, yeah, this is true, but it's absolutely not. Everyone on this call is amazing, right? Don't forget that. Speak slowly. Not necessarily a motor mouth this way, but there are sometimes, I used to live in Atlanta, right? And the people from the actual city of Atlanta, they sound like they are from the South. So they don't speak slowly. I have to actually pause and kind of really listen. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I understand what you're saying. And then the whole accent, that whole craziness. So to prevent any of that, let's slow down. Let's watch our words. Excuse me. Let's speak slowly so that the interviewer can understand what we're saying and the conversation can flow smoothly, right? With that being said, don't be afraid to pause and think about something, right? In this instance, it says, think about the question before responding, but don't be afraid. It doesn't come off as if you don't know. It just comes off as if you're taking your time to, give the correct answer. Don't take too long though, because then it could kind of slip into, well, all right, let's come back to this because I don't know if you're really ready for that one. But take your time. Like Kirsten was talking about that STAR technique. Tell me about a time when, ... Do yourself a favor. Ready yourself for that type of question. It's not going to be exactly as it is on the slides there, but start thinking of some situations to where you had to take action, to where you had to make a decision, to where you had to choose something and decide whether or not you needed more assistance to resolve that issue, or if it was something you were able to handle on your own. So just kind of prepare yourself for that. And that feeds right into the next point there. The best thing you can do is prepare. Practice makes perfect. We kind of touched on this. Have that copy of that resume or that executive summary there for you. We'll go into some other, times to have a resume present. It's not my part, but just have a copy there for yourself. Make sure you know it, know yourself, know the company, blah. Full circle, ask questions. If you know that company and you did that research, even if it's just a little bit, come up with a few unique things to ask. Stand out, stand out, stand out. You all can revisit this last point, right? It's about body language. Your body language may shape who you are, right? It's a little watch for you. Not going to take the time to do so today, but again, at a later date, hopefully you have some time before we do these interviews. Watch it and just kind of home in to the message and make sure you're presenting yourself as well as possible, right? Tabitha said, don't be afraid to write questions down. That way you don't have to stress about thinking about it, right? Great advice, great advice. Next slide, please. Okay, so we are now kind of cruising into clothing. Those suggestions that I spoke on that wonderful Kathleen gave for us, because she knows all about ladies' professional apparel, and I guess I need to step my game up. It's coming, right? So clothing suggestions, and this is for any and everyone, right? Suits, khaki pants, button-up shirts, awesome, right? Very clean, very professional. If a tie is worn, the design should be simple. So no SpongeBob with the jellyfish and glasses on, or we can maybe keep our collegiate ties for a different day. Let's go with solid colors. Let's go with some nice prints. Nothing too wild, nothing too wacky. Shirts tucked in, and no gym shorts, no jeans, no leggings or sweatpants, clean blouse, or let me go ahead and shrink this menu real quick. There we go. Or a collared shirt, knee-length skirt, pants, no jeans. Here we go with Haley, some shoe options, right? No jeans, yet no open-toe shoes. Short heels or flats would probably be best. Rule number one for everyone, look like you want to be there. I can tell you guys there are certain situations where I might seem as if, hey, yo, I'm ready and I'm here, but you can look into my face, look into my eyes and say, hey, Dallas just isn't really here. You know, you can tell that's obvious. Sometimes we all wear our emotions on our sleeves. So please, 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 rule number one, look like you want to be there. Next slide, please. All right, Miss Haley, here we go, here we go, here we go. So, sometimes on Fridays, sometimes, not every company is the same, not everyone has the same policy. Culture is a big thing in these workplaces. Casual wear, right? The gentleman, he has his shirt untucked, as I said, you know, have it tucked in, sleeves rolled back. He's got his top 2 buttons undone. You know, he's kind of laxed, but yet he's still got his messenger bag, and he looks like he's going to work, but maybe not going to work his tail off today. Maybe he just has a couple of Zoom meetings he needs to attend to, maybe some email, just, you know, nothing too major on his schedule today, so he's able to dress down a bit. The young lady, she has what appears to be a floral print, but I don't necessarily think it is. Just a nice blouse, some fun colors, some summer colors. She's got her jeans, but I am going to kind of reiterate, no open-toed shoes, even on a casual day. It's just not necessarily a decision we should make. Abstract, there it is. Put me in my place, Tabitha. Thank you so much. And from Kathleen, she told me, and I agree, even on casual Fridays, let's not be too casual. I can admit, right? I told you guys I could talk about growth areas. So before, I might have, you know, an outfit or two in my closet that I like to wear. And sometimes I'll wear it to work. And, you know, it'll get the attention that whoever wants to give it, but sometimes it's not necessarily the best decision of outfit to wear. Like I have sports apparel. We do have like a festive Friday, and they'll tell us what the theme is. And on those days, that'll be appropriate. But on a normal Friday, you know, I might wear jeans. I might wear some company branded apparel, even though I kind of do that every day. Those are safe options. The job gave it to me. It's appropriate. It's for them. So just kind of be mindful of what casual really means, right?
And I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Some employers don't care if they wear sweatpants in an interview. Some don't care.
Well, for the sake of professional development, we're presenting being casual or suggesting that we wear something a little more put together than sweats. But if you've spoken to your job, and let's say you're, I don't know, doing something active. Let's say you're running with young kids, you're playing outside, you're like some sort of a youth counselor, and you're into, you know, sports or those type of things. If they give you the green light to wear sweats or shorts, go for it. But I think Tabitha said, don't overexert yourself, you know, don't dress too warm in such atmospheres to where it then causes a problem, right? But it's all about culture. That's what I was speaking before. Every job is different. So if you have any questions, please feel free to speak to your supervisors, or if you're maybe a little bit hesitant to speak to them, talk to us and we'll give you our best advice. Next slide, please. All right, so we're moving up this ladder. Business casual, right? So it's not as casual as casual, but it's not as business as business. How about that for you guys? It's not super professional business suit, shirt and tie wear, but it's not untucked. It's not jeans, right? It's kind of a blend of the two. You see the gentleman, he's got his khakis on, definitely has a belt on. I'm from a time where we still wore belts, but our pants were probably still 2 to 3 sizes too big. I have learned, I am reformed. Belts and shirts tucked in. Polos are always nice. They're clean, they're classic, they come in great colors, they're comfortable, right? I love a good polo. And then for ladies, we've got an assortment of blouses, we've got blazers, we've got some subtle jewelry, we've got some nice purses, we've got some nice prints. I see some closed-toed shoes, I see some flats and short heels. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So if anybody wants to chime in for the ladies, as I know I'm kind of missing a whole lot, please don't let me downgrade the wonderful wear you all, you know, what's the word I want to use? I don't want to say wear again, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. Any takers, any suggestions, ladies?
I think I've said this before, but women's fashion is kind of dumb with all of the rules that there are. But just keep in mind her business casual, no jeans, making sure that things are appropriate lengths. I'd also try to stay away from sleeveless when possible. I would say that that's more, casual. But yeah, I don't know if anyone has anything to add or specific questions about that. We can try to answer them. But yeah, and so yeah, that knee length or lower. So that's kind of what the business casual and business professional length is. Haley, do you have a question?
So someone put in the chat that says, so when our whatever.
The meetings when they're in person, what's the dress code?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. So so Zoe just responded. She said, we encourage folks to wear business casual to PD. So something along the lines of this. But to also, and yeah, just highlighting Dallas's point, this isn't for all jobs. There's different requirements in different spaces. So I'm just being aware of where you're going to be at.
See, I knew somebody was going to jump in and help me out. Thank you, Kathleen. Next slide, please. So now here we are, and I can't even call this Sunday's best, right? But here we are with our business attire, our professional business attire. Depending on, again, the space that you work in, excuse me, sometimes suit and ties are necessary. The gentleman there, I don't think he's going to be this clean and crisp if he rides his bike to work with a suit on, because I don't think he's going to be able to breathe in that one. We're not even going there. He has his tie on though. Nice tie, nice color. From the looks of it, we can't necessarily home in, but it looks like it might have a very subtle pattern. Shirt's tucked in. His belt matches his shoes. He's got it together. And then for the ladies, I remember, again, another time in Atlanta. Well, first, my mom used to wear business suits to work. She's been a teacher for like 100,000 years. So she's always dressed this part. But I was in Atlanta and I was working at a pizza place just to make some extra money, right? And there was a young woman, she was about my age, and she came in with a business suit. I was like maybe late 20s, 28, 29, maybe, yeah, not 30, 28 or 29. Anyways, she looked really strong. She looked really important. The way that I think it might have been a skirt, but the way that her business suit looked on her, she looked very, I want to say even prestigious. Like she had a very powerful job. Her posture was top notch. She was framed amazingly. I think women look absolutely stunning in a business suit. Excuse me. The blouse, of course, tucked in. No outrageous colors. suits in general, male, female, etc. They're just amazing, right? They're very appropriate for these different settings. I'm gonna speak on culture again because it might not be required of you, but if you have, let's say, a board meeting to attend, or if you have some sort of, I don't know, event to go to, it could be like a charity fundraiser, it could be some sort of workshop that you're attending, go ahead and knock their socks off with a good suit. I can promise you, if any of you wear a suit and you walk past Shamar, he's gonna make note of it. He's gonna speak to you. He's gonna absolutely love what he sees, and he's gonna make it a point to give you your kudos on what you chose to wear at that particular time. I mean, suits get just that much prestige, but that's not to say shirt and ties aren't equally as nice, or a nice sweater. You know, I'm privy to kind of wearing a sweater, a shirt, and a tie. I like it. In the cooler months, I can give my pop of color. I can wear my khakis and my slacks, and I can kind of have at it. I'm comfortable still, but yet I'm framed appropriately. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Okay, before I pass the mic, did I see Olivia here? She posed a great question last time.
I did. I can ask it again if you'd like.
Awesome. Yes, please, please.
Okay, so I'm going to set a timer for like 2 minutes, and I would love it if y'all either came off of mute or jumped in the chat, thinking about the closet you already have, your real clothes. What is it that you either are going to wear to your interview next Tuesday if you have one, or you would wear to your interview if you were going on one?
And just to kind of recreate the wheel, I don't quite remember the message, but it was a great one. Janae, do you have any advice for the young people again?
I was going to mention earlier, just, the summer months are hot and tend to be sweaty for a lot of people. So just paying attention to like your fabrics can be helpful too. I know linens are, they're very light, and as someone mentioned, it's hard for a lot of women to dress comfortably in the summer and still be considered professional. So I would keep that in mind. Just lighter, airier fabrics. Something to think about.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a question. How do you find out if you have an interview or not?
Zoe, you want to chime in on that for us, please?
Do you mean for this program?
Yes.
Reese, you definitely have interviews. So if you submitted the preference form, you should have interviews. So you'll get your schedule tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was
Yeah,
did we
of
know
course.
already?
Yeah, no, good. Definitely good to clarify. Yeah, because we want you all to feel prepared for Tuesday. So
just to make you all aware, whenever Olivia gives us an update,
3 seconds.
3 seconds then. So after this,
Good. We're good to go.
Tabitha's gonna take the mic after this, but yeah, you guys go ahead.
I'm seeing some really great responses about putting a blazer over things. I do think that's one way to really immediately dress up an outfit. I've done it myself this evening. So loving that. Anyone else want to come off of mute and share some of what yes, blazers are very cool, Tabitha. Polo and dress pants and dress shoes, awesome response. We'd love to hear your voices as well.
Yeah, I don't have much, but I have like this, it probably needs to be washed because I used it for an event last weekend. I have like this off-white long sleeve shirt. It's like right here is like a, I don't know, it kind of folds over itself to make a little, but it's not just folded over. It's, I don't know where it is, but it's like a knot, but it's not a knot. And I have a black skirt I'm pretty sure it goes down to my knees because I don't wear short skirts, but I pull it up high over my shirt. And then I wear black leggings and I wear black flats.
What I tend to do, guys, I actually keep a blazer and a polo at my desk. So on those days that I might have something important to do, or as you all are mentioning, throwing a blazer over things, it definitely jazzes up your outfit, right? It goes from a casual t-shirt that might be branded by Michigan Works to a business casual outfit because I keep a clean blazer at my desk. So just, word to the wise, if you have a space to where maybe you can keep a blazer and these situations may change for you at work, don't be afraid to throw that blazer on in the middle of the day just for that meeting that you have.
That's also a good tip for those that wear heels as well, maybe packing some flats as an alternative and kind of like keeping extra if you have that option as well too. That could be an option just for comfort.
Yes, I see there's some questions about hair too. Keeping your hair down is fine for an interview. You just want to make sure that your hair is taken care of, like Dallas was saying about grooming. So it doesn't necessarily matter what style, but you probably don't want to have like a messy bun or something that isn't as nice. Like, so if you have your hair in braids or you have your hair in curls or you want to leave it straight, however you're naturally comfortable with your hair, as long as the grooming that Dallas was talking about is taken care of, that doesn't matter as much. I don't know if any of the other folks have comments about that. Yes, and if you're more comfortable with your hair pulled back in a ponytail, that's fine. Putting your hair in a low bun is a really sleek professional look that takes 2 seconds. If anyone is really struggling with this, I have so many YouTube videos that I myself refer to as someone who struggles with their hair. So YouTube, Pinterest is a wealth of knowledge that you're always welcome to tap into, and you can always connect with your success coach or career advisor with these questions, especially Dallas, because he's the hair king. So, but does that answer hair questions? Wonderful. Okay. All right, gang, are we good to move to tips for virtual interviews, or does anyone have any more grooming, clothing, appearance questions? Wonderful. Thank you, Olivia. I take that as my go ahead. So tips for virtual interviews. Virtual interviewing is a little bit different than in person, as we've talked about. So you just want to set yourself up for success in some of the same ways and in some different ways. And we'll kind of go through ways that you all can do that. So the first one, and one of the most important ones, I would say, is testing your technology ahead of time. And by ahead of time, we don't mean 5 minutes before an interview or the interview event, the day of, definitely, so it works that day. But I would give yourself a good hour or so to check your internet connection, your camera, your microphone, make sure all of that is working. Last PD session, I found out right as PD was starting that my microphone didn't work. Thank God I had all of these wonderful people working with me, or else I would have been in trouble because I couldn't have presented my slides. And you don't want that to happen in an interview. So you want to test your technology, make sure it works. And if you're having any issues, you want to make sure you leave enough time to fix that before the interview. And if you need any help setting up technology, you can always ask the SummerWorks staff. That's any issue. All right, and set the scene and minimize distractions. This is a huge one with virtual interviewing because a lot of us are going to be interviewing in our personal spaces with our family, our pets, construction, windows, all that good stuff. So you want to make sure you're in a room that's got good lighting, natural lighting if possible, and also eliminate all distractions. So find a quiet space with a neutral background if possible. If you're feeling distracted or jittery yourself, maybe taking just like a minute to take a deep breath and relax. Make sure anyone in the house with you knows that you're doing an interview, and just trying and set yourself up for success in that way. And also tidying up your surroundings. So you don't need to clean everything around you, but the area behind you should stay pretty neutral. Right. And then this next one, let me make sure. And also with setting up the scene is also how you look in the camera. So this is not a good look. Just seeing my eyes kind of like peeking out of the camera. So you want to make sure that you raise it up and you're actually looking. And don't be afraid to kind of like play around with light. The light source should be coming from in front of you, because if it's coming from behind you, you will look spooky. And I don't know if anyone here wants to work with someone spooky, probably not. So be sure to set that scene and just set yourself up for success. It is virtual, but that is still your first impression, and you want to make sure to make the best first impression as possible. Right. And also just being comfortable, like Dallas was saying earlier, you don't want to be, you know, fidgeting and twisting around and doing all sorts of crazy stuff before or during your interview. So just kind of finding a place to be comfortable. So once you start, you can actually be focused and be present. All right. And then also coming back to a lot of other stuff we've been saying, sitting down as prepared as possible. So I know it's tempting because this is a virtual interview to not do any research. You know, you have the internet with you, but these interviews are going to be super, super short. And it's also just not professional to be Googling the company while you're interviewing with the company. So even though it's virtual and you're in your own home, sitting down with your questions handy, with your resume handy, like Dallas was talking about, and just having that stuff present and right there with you makes a big difference. And just check the chat, make sure no one has questions about this. All right. And if you need a stress ball, is good. Yes, absolutely. You can even just set yourself up for success. I have my little stress draft here when I'm nervous, and you can just set yourself up. That's one of the best things about being remote. You can kind of set yourself up for success in a way that feels good. Thank you, Krista. All right. And then next is practice, don't memorize. Ooh, but actually before I move on to that, Haley, that's a good point. If you're someone who plays with your jewelry, or you like, I'm a fidgeter, I'll fidget with my earrings. So maybe for an interview, don't wear jewelry that you'll want to play with. So again, you're just setting yourself up for success in a way that you know is going to be good for you. And then, I hope that makes sense. And then practice, don't memorize. So you want to be aware of what's on your resume, and you want to be aware of what the company is about, and you want to kind of practice in a mock interview or just going online and looking at common interview questions, but you don't want to rehearse so much and practice so much that you think it sounds like you're reading from a script, if that makes sense. Because right now I'm talking to you, I have notes for these slides, but I'm also talking into the camera, and it's kind of like a conversation. And you want the same thing for an interview. You want to be prepared, you want to be knowledgeable, but you don't want to sound like a robot, because who wants to work with a robot? Not good. Thank you, Haley. I appreciate that. All right. And then, so also with practicing, if you want to practice in the mirror, that's great. But if you have friends or family or success coaches, mock interviews, practicing with a person and getting feedback can also be very helpful. So again, don't be afraid to practice, but don't memorize to the point where it's like you're not having a conversation anymore. All right. And I know I said common interview questions. That's going to be on the next slide. So I don't want anyone to be nervous that we're not going to show those. And so body language, again, this is something that's a little bit weird with virtual interviewing, because you can see me and you can see that I'm looking at the camera sometimes I'm looking at the faces, but being aware of where you're looking, what your hands are doing. I mean, I'm obviously not shaking my hands about, but I'm having a conversation with you all in this moment. So being aware of what your body looks like and your body language. On the slides, there's a link to a video about body language. You're welcome to all watch that if you like, but just the basics: sit up straight, eye contact with the camera, smiling, and being engaged in the conversation. All right. And then addressing for success, including pants. So we covered what dressing for success in different situations looks like, but for virtual, it is very tempting to just wear professional from the chest up, from the top up, and then have no pants on. But what happens if you have to run up and get the door and then you're not wearing pants and you're standing up? And it's not just that, but also if you dress the part and you feel good and you look good, that's going to come across in that interview. You're going to feel confident, you're going to feel ready.
Tabitha, can I cut you off 1 second?
Absolutely.
Okay, my sister, actually, I was talking to my family after professional development. My sister told me this story. I have to like very briefly share it. She was interviewing for a spot at Harvard Law, and she had done business on top, party on the bottom. So she was wearing her sleep pants on the bottom with like a full blazer business suit on top. And it's not even like what happens if you run to the door. Like, she just forgot that what she was wearing, and she stood up to reach a book to reference the book. And then the camera was just like completely filled with her like brightly printed pajama pants. And I think she pivoted pretty well. She has now graduated from law school at Harvard, but you know, you really don't want to be in that situation. It was very embarrassing. So you might just forget yourself, you know, even if nothing emergency status happened.
Absolutely. I did not think that story was going to have a happy ending. I'm very glad it did. Yes. Don't leave it to chance though, and to put pants on bottom. All right, and then this next one is going to be make a connection. As you see here, again, this is weird, right? In these virtual spaces, making that connection, making eye contact isn't as easy. But again, you know, having body language that shows you're engaged and making eye contact with the camera can make a big difference. I knew people that would put a little sticky note next to their camera that said, "Look at me," or put little googly eyes next to the camera so they remember to look. That's a tip and a way to make a connection, but also just in conversation. I don't know whose example this is, but someone in this group, I'm going to guess Dallas, noticed that the person interviewing them had a Cubs banner, and the Cubs had just won the World Series. So making that connection and commenting on that, if you see in their virtual background, or if you're in person and you see it on their office door. So finding small ways to make those connections not only helps them remember you, but also can make you feel more comfortable having a conversation with the interviewer too. And last but not least, just be yourself. Ultimately, you are interviewing the interviewers to see if you want that job too. And you're not going to know if it's a good fit if you're just not being yourself. So remember, you're all capable individuals. You have the skills to have these jobs. That's why you're being interviewed for them. So just being yourself and holding on to that can really help. And also, of course, as I was saying, you know, interviewing is about interviewing the position as well as them interviewing you. So also getting a feel of that culture can be very helpful. All right, and then this is the big one. So everyone who wasn't paying attention, pay attention now. If you have an interview, it is essential to follow up and thank your interviewers within the first 24 hours. So sending an individual thank you email to everyone you met during your interview or you talked to during that process can make the world a difference. It shows that you valued their time. It gives you an opportunity to just sell yourself one more time and make that really good impression, and also clarify any answers you give. So for example, if you're doing an interview and they ask a question that just stumps you, you can't answer it, you can even answer that question in the follow-up email. So it can really solidify a good impression, but it's also just extremely polite. And these people are taking time to talk to you, so you want to be appreciative. Olivia has another really good story for this one. She once very recently sent, what was it, 20 individual thank you notes, handwritten, 22 individual handwritten thank you notes because she didn't have her interviewers' emails. So don't be afraid to ask for their emails. They'll let you know if they're not comfortable getting it. But if they give you their email, it's always a best practice to write a follow-up thank you note. All right, does anyone have any questions? I know that was a ton of information, but we just want to set you all up for success as best possible with this.
Just to clarify, you did say within the next 24 hours after we interview?
Yeah, that's always a good idea. Great
Okay.
question. All right. Wonderful.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Kate.
I was like making a calendar reminder for myself to clean my room. I kind of missed all that. Can you just sum it up?
All the slides?
No, just what you just said, like in the last 2 minutes.
Oh, so most important part of this is sending, remembering to send a follow-up email. And Kirsten's gonna send out a lovely summary email from this PD as always, so it'll be there too. But the most important part of this is sending a follow-up thank you email to all of your interviewers. All right, any other questions? Krista says, I would also say to make sure to be confident but not overdo it. It's okay to admit areas of weakness because of it shows areas of self-awareness. And if you share it's an area you're working on and your plan to work on it, shows you have a growth mindset, which is important to employers. Absolutely. We're going to talk more about interview questions and how to answer them, but that's a really good segue into that portion. All right, any other questions about this before I pass the mic off to Jordan? Wonderful. Jordan, let you take it away. As always, put your questions in the chat if we missed anything.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Tabitha. So if I could get the next slide, awesome. So as Dallas kind of mentioned before, it is super important to do your research before you are going into an interview so that you can have questions for those employers. And it really just impresses them and sets you up for success in that environment. If at all possible, best practice is to do research beforehand, not only on the organization, but maybe their projects, what they're working on, learn about kind of what they're doing. If you can go on LinkedIn and look up the people who are interviewing you and just kind of learn what their position is, maybe, just really get as curious as you possibly can and just, collect all that information. And so that way, not only are you more knowledgeable going into the interview on how to kind of prepare and answer those questions, but you can really impress the interviewers and ask them questions that are going to help you learn more about the workplace as well. So a few examples of good questions are, what does it take to be successful at this company? So, that's not necessarily something that you can like find online. It's something that you really have to know from someone who is already, engaging in that, company, organization, and really how, they think you can successfully, operate within that. The second is, what do you like about working for this company? So again, something you wouldn't be able to just research. It really gives you more insight into kind of not only maybe what they're doing, but that environment and whether that's a place that you think you would like to be. So again, kind of making sure that you're interviewing them as well to learn more about, whether it's a good match. And then lastly, could you tell me more about the day-to-day responsibilities of this job? So again, this is just really helpful to you as an interviewee to learn more about, what you would be expected of you, what you could bring to that role, maybe areas of growth you might need to identify. So, really just thinking outside the box, and you can ask questions based off your research too. If there's something you find that you have more questions about, that's always another good thing. So don't be afraid to, think outside of the box with those types of things. So I see a question that says, is it okay to ask about the people working there, like the work environment or coworker environment? Yeah, that is absolutely something you can ask Haley, asking about kind of like what the work environment is like, or, what the like team dynamic is, can really help provide you with some insight into, how, they work, their kind of, expectations, and how you would fit in based on what you're looking for in that kind of space for working. So just kind of an example of what it looks like to an interviewer and a difference of questions. So when we were hiring success coaches, we had one individual who had, clearly done their research, very knowledgeable on SummerWorks and kind of what we do and all our different partners and stuff. And so they asked questions that were kind of about how we want to evolve our program. So really showing that, they're knowledgeable and want to learn something more in depth about what's going on and kind of, a more deep understanding of the organization. And then, we had an interview later where the individual asked what age range participants could be. And that's, clearly listed right on our website. And so that clearly just kind of showed us that, they had maybe not done as much research or really prepared for the interview compared to the individual who, really displayed that knowledge and had questions that would kind of further expand and inform them. So it's definitely something that's really good to think about. So I just want to take like a minute or two really quickly to brainstorm some other potentially good ideas or questions, that you could ask employers. So if you want to come off of mute or throw those in the chat, that would be great. So I'll give you a second or two, but what are some good questions that you could ask employers?
What is the work environment like in this company?
Yeah, absolutely, Reese. That's a great one. So again, just getting a better, understanding of what it's like in that space, what they expect of employees, how they operate, and, if that meets with your needs and wants. I see Krista says, what does a typical day look like? Absolutely. So just, learning more about the role and kind of what you would be doing, your hours, whether you're going to be on your feet all day or maybe sitting at a desk, all good things to know. Are there opportunities for training and progression in this role? Moniba put that. Absolutely, that's a really good one. You have to think about as an interviewee, you're not only looking for a job, but you're looking for a place where you can learn and grow as a professional. So thinking about things like training and being able to develop or progress in a role is something that is definitely good to ask an employer and learn more about. I see ask about hours. Yep. So if you have questions about what that's like, for SummerWorks, you will just have 16 hours a week. But if you want to ask about the structure or kind of, what it is, and in a normal kind of space, it's always good to ask about hours if that's not listed. Team building, dress code, challenges of the job, ideal candidate, what times of the day are the busiest in terms of having customers. So yeah, these are all great questions. And definitely think about, what space you're in, what the employer does, and you can definitely tailor those questions. So like Amy's question about customers, definitely makes sense in, a place where you're serving individuals in some capacity. So definitely really think on that, but those are great examples, everyone. So thank you. So if we can get the next slide. Awesome. So we're going to sound like a broken record. We've said this before. We'll probably say it again, but practice, practice, practice. If you, have friends or family that you can do it with, that's always great. But if not, taking the time to do it with yourself, whether it's in a mirror or just, sitting down and kind of talking it through. But really getting that verbal practice is so great. And then it's also really good sometimes to just sit down and kind of jot your thoughts out. That's something that I personally like to do. So taking a look at kind of questions and preparing thoughts and ideas ahead of time that are kind of maybe specific to that position you're applying for or that company, because you really want to showcase to them how you would match that at a specific workplace. So when practicing interview questions, we've listed some here, so these will be sent out. But it's always good to just kind of go over some of those basic questions that you think would be asked, and those that might be relevant to that specific role. And a good way to look at like a range of interview questions is to just type that into Google, like basic interview questions, if you're ever curious. But we've provided some here. So a pretty common one that they open with is tell me about yourself. So really thinking how you can provide them with a summary of, you know, your experiences and your qualifications, and kind of presenting yourself to them as, you know, a strong candidate. Why should we hire you? So again, thinking through those, you know, qualifications you want to highlight. I do want to jump down to the scenario questions. So we talked about the STAR technique Kirsten did way back at the beginning. So you want to use STAR for all of these, but these situational questions, like tell me about a time when you had to solve a problem. It's really, really good to kind of sit down and walk through STAR with those so that you can give the interviewer the whole picture of, you know, kind of that story that you're trying to tell, and what you're doing. So really take the time, and thinking through some of that beforehand also prevents you from, you know, getting that fluster in the moment of an interview, especially if you're nervous, which I know I always am, of, you know, just not being sure of like a good scenario or example for these. So definitely practice these. You can always check in with your career advisors or success coaches and do mock interviews with them. Those of you who are interviewing for internships are not required to do a mock internship. But if you would like that practice, you can definitely schedule one. And we'll go over more about kind of mock interviews and full interviews in those processes a little bit later as well. But does anyone have any questions about either of these things before I move on?
That was a good example of make sure your phone is turned off during your interviews.
Yes,
So
absolutely was.
it was a very good example, Jordan.
All right, well, I will pass it off then to Olivia.
Hi, y'all. Okay, so just a couple of preparedness tips, especially if you're interviewing in person, which we are not doing this summer, but just for the future, these will not be the only interviews you ever have. You want to make sure that you bring a copy of your resume to interviews, and preferably more than one. You might want to be able to look at it, and having one for your interviewers is a helpful way to show and demonstrate your preparedness. And even if they already have a copy of it, of course, I have never seen an interviewer not appreciate that demonstration of your preparedness. In terms of a video interview, you may want to make sure that you have a PDF of your resume that you can readily send, and also one that is open. My dad is in a position where he interviews people for his job frequently, and he likes to kind of set people at ease when he starts the conversation. So he likes to ask like questions that are things that are on people's resumes. And he says that like more often than you would think, people just sort of forget what's on it and then are blank for the rest of the interview and don't know how to talk about what's on there. So I think sometimes that could mean the people had maybe exaggerated, but I also think it can just be like a nervous response. So if you have that in front of you, it's a perfectly reasonable document for you to have with you. And it can be your kind of like guidance, your little note cheat sheet. Like, this is me, I know who I am, and I've put this together already. So definitely bring a copy of your resume. You also don't want to use resume space on a references list, as we talked about last week, but you do want to have a separate list and a separate sheet of people who can speak on your behalf. We will discuss later this summer how to ask for references, but for now, keep a running list in your mind of people who can speak well on behalf of your skills. And make sure, if you're thinking of, 3 to 5 people, very safe list, that you reach out to them and you say, hey, I'm applying for jobs in this sector. Would you be able to offer me a strong reference? And if so, can I pass your contact information along? Asking them if they will be able to offer you a strong reference kind of gives you a clue as to how they will answer questions about you. And it helps that recommender or referee say, yes, you should put me in this position, or no, you should not. So you'll want to have that list with you as well in future interviews. And we will be working on both resumes, of course, and reference sheets further on this summer. But we're happy to provide support between now and then to anybody who wants it. So please reach out if that would be helpful to you. Any questions about references or resumes? Okay, next slide. So just a quick recap for us on knowing how to conduct a simple, successful interview. I think this really sums it up. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Your first interview is going to feel very, very, very different than your 20th interview. So every time you get an opportunity to mock interview or to interview for things, like, I'd suggest it, because it will take the pressure off of any one interview and you'll just get more comfortable with the format. So the more practice you have, the better. Do your research on the company and do your research on what to expect in interviews. Practice your answers as much as possible. Lots of questions like the ones we've talked about pop up a lot. What are some of your strengths? What are some of your greatest areas for improvement? Think about a time when you have worked on a team. Tell me about a challenge that you have solved. These come up a lot, and having a set of answers that is in that STAR format: situation, task, action, result, and you're ready to go with it, will make these interviews feel so good. Look the part, look good, feel good, stay calm. If you get nervous, you can take a sip of water. Everybody will respond well to that. That is normal. You can say, if you don't know the answer to a question, you might say, oh, that's a really good question. Pause, take your sip of water, and now you're giving yourself a couple of minutes to think about it. If you've done all of that and you're well and truly stumped, you can say at that point, can I have a moment to think about it? Yes, that makes sense. I think a lot of interviewers want you to succeed and want you to do well. They are not looking to trip you up. They are looking to find the best candidate for the job. And so knowing that you will ask for what you need can be a good thing. Of course, you'll want to try to be as smooth as possible, but happens to everybody. And I would not say it is like disqualifying for a job. And remember, you do always want to ask questions that will help you seem interested and prepared in the job. And then I think I just have one more slide. We covered this, but make sure you send emails within 24 hours. If you have a group interview, like several interviewers interview you, you can, and you feel like you connected with one person especially, you can send that person an individual thank you and then send a group thank you to the whole panel so that it's not forced or insincere. But make sure that everybody who interviews you does get thanked by you. Get their contact info. And I promise you that employers will remember that you thanked them. So any questions?
How and when do you get their contact info?
I think at the end of the interview, when they're asking you any questions that you might have for them, of course, ask the ones that are job related first, but you can then say like, if I have any questions I need to follow up, could I have your email address? Some of your interviewers, you'll already have their emails because you may have been communicating with them via email. So for the time I sent 22 handwritten notes, I did send emails to everyone who I had emails for, but it was a long weekend full of visits, and it just wasn't like natural to send it to ask everybody that question. But I think the end of that interview for a group or panel interview, or for with an individual interviewer, is a perfect time for you to say, if I'd like to follow up, what's a good email address to contact you at? And if that is that, I think I will hand it over to Ben.
All right, so we've talked all night about what makes a good interview, how to be successful in your upcoming interviews. This video here is going to show you or represent a few things, or maybe even more than a few things, that are really bad practices, or things that might make your employer, potential employer, not hire you. But before we start that video, I'd like just to ask everybody to give a couple examples about things that you feel might be a red flag to an employer when they're sitting down to interview with you. So just some behaviors or things that you might do or could do that would kind of put you off in a bad start with the employer. Right, not knowing about your employer, not being prepared, not knowing what you're going to say or even what you're really applying for, right? Sunglasses for sure. Short or rude in tone. Yep. All for sure things that a prospective employer is not going to want to see or hear. Yeah.
You could be interrupting the person doing the interview, like keep cutting them off. I don't think that'd be very popular.
Right. Absolutely. No one really likes to feel like they can't get their ideas out, right? Right. Confused about responses. So I guess that's kind of being unprepared, second guessing yourself, not really showing that confidence that you have. Right. So these are all great answers. So I think with that, we'll start the video. And then when we're all finished with that, we can talk about a couple examples that are in there that maybe we didn't touch on now.
Oh, no sound, Kirsten.
Well,
Yeah, it's back.
thank you for meeting today for this interview. I saw your resume, very professional. And so I suppose.
Yeah, my cousin wrote that for me.
Oh, well, it's always nice to have help. And if you could you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I could.
And
but what if I don't feel like it?
Could you maybe also remove your, I believe those are sunglasses? Although stylish, it appears that it appears that the sun is coming in like towards your back, in which the sunglasses, they're a move that doesn't really make sense given the scenario.
I see you guys are pretty strict over there, huh?
We try to be.
All right, let's do this. Tell me, what was your question, sir?
Could you tell me about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Shamar. I like to do stuff. Usually I do it just so that I get it done. I really don't always put the best effort in, but at the end, I clean it up and make it look really good. So that's one of my good skills is, I guess some might say slacking. I say being innovative and creative. Another thing about me is, every chance I get, I like to spend money. You got to be able to have fun in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Life is about having fun. This work stuff, man, the only reason I'm doing this is because my mom told me if I don't figure it out, she gonna kick me out the house or at least make me get off the couch.
Okay. So being innovative, being creative, those are all things that we can work with.
Hey, hold on one second. Hey, Mom, don't put no cheese on my cheeseburger, okay? No cheese. All right. Yeah.
Mr. Herring, you should be aware that when having a cheeseburger, the cheese is part of that. Could you tell me why you're interested
Hey,
in this
Mom,
position?
don't put no ham on my hamburger either.
Mr. Herring, could you just kind of let me know why you're interested in this position?
Mr. Koba, I just told you I'm going to get put out if I don't figure out how to make some money and not play 2K 16 to 18 hours a day. Okay. So I got to figure this out. And your company, you had a cool logo. I like you guys' logo. So I called my cousin. I said, hey, make some stuff. I mean, can you help me write a resume that makes a lot of sense so that I can go work and not get put out and still play 2K? But I read the job description and some of the stuff. I think I could do moderately well.
Okay. Well, could you tell me about a time that you had to make a tough decision at work or in life?
Great question. So I'll tell you about the time, my coworkers, they were like, just leave. They won't even know that you left. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. But then there was a little voice inside of me that said, don't go anywhere because your manager will be looking for you. So I made the tough decision to not leave work early so that we could go play some more 2K. So I could have just went and left work, right? You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like I could have left, but I used, thinking because I need money so I don't get kicked out of the house so I can play 2K.
Yeah, and we do strive to have all of our employees, as you said, use thinking. It's pretty important around here.
See, the mentals, you got to use them.
Got to use them. Yeah. Well, I think we're almost done here.
You smell that?
But do you have any? Nope. This is virtual. I can't smell anything about
that. Might be me then, right?
Probably.
Oh.
It's likely that it's you, given the situation.
So the quarantine out here, I'm just in the house.
Yep.
Here.
Absolutely.
Can't nobody else smell it. I'm gonna just keep it going.
Well, do you have any questions for me before we finish things up here?
Do I get paid for this interview?
No. No, you do not. All right.
Can y'all help me with my cell phone bill, like right now? Because my minutes is getting low.
So the way we do this is when you work for us, which I wouldn't count on right now, we give you money, which you can then use to exchange for goods and services.
Interesting concept. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Well, it's just one way to do things. All right, Mr. Heron. Well, thank you very much.
Well, hold on. I got more questions.
All right.
Where'd you get that tie, man? That's a nice tie, brother.
I got this at Goodwill. Okay. Specifically the Goodwill in Saginaw, Michigan.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You think they hiring?
Yes.
Okay.
A bit of a commute.
If I could do modestly a good job, you think they'll hire me?
Based on this interview, no. But
so what you're saying is I didn't interview well?
That is correct.
Is it the T-shirt? I should have wore different. I should have wore my He Got Game T-shirt.
That would have actually that would have been an improvement over the current T-shirt.
Okay, puke green isn't my color. Duly noted. Duly noted. All right. Last question.
All right.
How much y'all think y'all gonna pay me for this job I'm about to get with y'all?
I don't think that we're going to pay you because at this point in time, we don't intend on hiring you.
Well, that's discrimination, isn't it?
No, you had a very bad interview. And I believe you mentioned your cousin wrote your resume, so.
Some chicken, yeah. No, yeah, he did write it. And you said
Okay.
it was a good resume.
Yeah.
At the beginning, right? So, all right, man. I mean, when do I start?
You don't.
Oh, all right. Well, can you refer me to somebody?
Yeah,
own a business?
absolutely.
I'll come work for you.
Hard pass. But
All right.
we talked about the Goodwill in Saginaw, Michigan.
There's a
Maybe that's
but.
an option.
All right. Well, I don't got a car, so
Well,
maybe they'll let me work virtually.
maybe.
Welcome to Goodwill. How may I help you?
They'll just have a computer monitor out front.
Boom,
You're just greeting.
done.
Too easy.
I like it. All right, man. So I'll see you on the first day of work, man. Have a good day.
All right.
So as you can tell, and as we're seeing in the chat, it's a tough watch, right? These are some things that you really don't want to be doing in your own interviews coming up. Is there anything that you guys noticed that really stood out, that were particularly poor? Anything that we didn't say before the video that Shamar had done?
I know something. Is that he smelled his own armpits and he was like saying, "Hey, mom," several times while he was talking about the job.
Right. So very distracted, kind of bringing up topics that aren't really relevant to the interview itself. Just not very useful information, right? Right. Asking about another job at the interview he's at. That to me is a big red flag. One thing that really stood out to me is he portrayed that, yes, he's interviewing, but he's not actually interested in the job. He wants the job to get money to do something else, right? Which sometimes, that happens, but a lot of the times when you're interviewing, you want to at least express that you're interested in the position, right? You want to put it out there that you're interviewing for a reason, because you want the position, you want to be a part of their program or what they're doing. There's some irrelevant questions, didn't seem prepared. Yeah, all these things for sure. So now that you know what it's like to do a poor job, we have another video up next that's going to show you what a good interview looks like. So I'm going to pass that off over to the next slide here, where Janae will talk to you guys.
Yeah, so first we're going to watch a video about what a good interview might look like. But before, do you guys have any tips or any, suggestions for a good interview, or what you might have been taught in the past? You can either come off mute or say it in the chat. Yep, so we've got paying attention, answering honestly and attentively. Very good. So maybe sitting up straight would be another one that we already know. Okay, so maybe we'll let you guys watch the video for a bit, and then we'll reconvene and come back and mention some other things. Oh, we've got more now, hold on. Taking time with our answers, that's a good one. Thinking about answers carefully. Yep, so all these things are just contributing to our overall professionalism, and let's go ahead and watch it and we'll reconvene afterwards.
Hey, SummerWorks participants. Today, Drew is going to be interviewing me for a fake position as a school health coordinator at Bullet Creek School District. And hopefully, this is going to be an example of a good interview.
Well, hey, welcome, Dave. Thanks. Thank you so much for coming in and interviewing for the health coordinator position here at this university. I really liked your application. So if you're ready, I think we can get started with the interview portion. All right. So Dave, my first question to you is going to be, tell me about a little bit about yourself, if you could.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity to interview here today. So I graduated high school in 2011 from Bullet Creek High School, wanting to help people. I then went to college to study education. While in college, my freshman year actually, I started a wrestling program at a Title I school at a local middle school. In 2013, I joined the Army Reserve, And then in 2016, I graduated, and then I coached and I taught at Dow High School in Midland for 3 years. I left teaching in 2019 to study public health and educational policy at the University of Michigan. Currently, I volunteer with the American School Health Association and host a podcast about school health. I believe a school should be the healthiest place in a community, and that all children are entitled to an exceptional education. And I've really devoted my life's work to making that happen.
Thank you for that, Dave. I really like that response. So my second question for you is going to be, why are you interested in this specific position?
So I'm really passionate, as I hope I've gotten across already, about school health. And I know rural districts really face unique strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats compared to urban schools. There are vast educational and health inequities that are present in Midland County. And I'd really cherish the opportunity to work with district staff, parents, and community stakeholders to help narrow those gaps.
Okay, thank you. So in this position, you'll have to, you'll be faced with some tough decisions at times. So knowing that, can you tell me about a time that you had to make a tough decision while you were at work?
Absolutely, my pleasure. So I was new at a roofing company in 2011. So towards the end of the Great Recession, when we found out that everyone was getting laid off at the end of that project. And so everybody except for me quit like right on the spot. And so I was the only employee left in the entire branch that was just like a laborer. And so my team was supposed to get the materials ready and drive them to the job site. So everything that you'd need to take off an old roof, and then all the materials for the new roof. And so I loaded up the truck and I started on my way. And I called the branch manager on the way and just kind of updated them on what was happening. And then we got the job done. It was the branch manager, all the salespeople, and myself, and we got the new roof on. And I was given a $5 an hour raise for that entire project. And then that raise continued when I was brought on as a foreman with the branch manager's new company. And that company is still going today. In fact, it cleared 7 figures last year.
Wow. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Okay, so that's all of the questions I had for you. Again, thank you so much for coming in. Really enjoyed talking to you just now. So yeah, last thing, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, actually, so I saw that your website doesn't list anything about school health currently. I was just wondering if there are currently any programs or initiatives underway.
So yes, and that's part of why we want to bring you. We want to bring somebody in for this position because those things are in progress, are in the works, but we want to make sure that they are as fleshed out and as quality as possible before we start implementing those initiatives and resources.
Wonderful.
All right.
Hey, SummerWorks participants.
So what are some of the things that you guys noticed that the interviewee did well?
He gave a very descriptive timeline of his professional development.
Right. So that's a really good one, being descriptive of their past and going into detail about some of the things that they've already previously experienced. In the chat, we've got, seemed like there was a conversation. So, right, that's a good point. Being conversational with your employer is really just shows them that you're a human being. I think someone mentioned the other day that people don't want to hire robots. So, being conversational is really important too. Let's see, they were prepared and went over the company website, right? So you could tell this interviewee had previously researched the company that they were interviewing for, as well as being confident and smiling. Yes, it's always a good tip. Again, going back to being friendly and, professional. You could definitely tell that the interviewee practiced. Yep, so they asked great questions at the end, and you could tell that they were absolutely interested. So these are all really great suggestions and good example of good interview tips.